Okay, so welcome to reproductive organs and emotions under the umbrella of sacred sexuality. And I'm Colette Corcoran. For those that don't know me, I started off many years ago working with spirituality and sacred sexuality within the womb wisdom framework. Before that, I was a yoga teacher and a yoga teacher trainer. I started off as a school teacher, so teaching has always been my bag. And I travelled the world learning different healing modalities from lots of different teachers and lots of indigenous communities all over the world in Hawaii and Peru and India. So I was on a healing journey for myself, my own reproduction, my own emotions, my own femininity. And that led me to, first of all, seek my own healing. And then when I started to do some really deep healing and my life started to change, I wanted to share that gift with other women. And that's why I went into deeper teaching of sacred sexuality. After work in India, I did over 6 weeks into Tantra and sacred sexuality. So I want to just, honour one of the first teachers that I ever came across was a teacher called Uma Dinsmore Tooley, who wrote a book called Yoni Shakti. And this was a book that was all about the feminine reproduction and yoga. It married the two, but it had very deep rooted lineage into it, a very sacred lineage, a very healing lineage that I thought, I know I'm connected to this lineage of healing women. And I know by looking at the names on this list and those that have joined this recording, you're all kind of these women who work in spirituality, who are, connected to the feminine and the feminine's work. So I think that's one of the reasons maybe you're on the call. And that's definitely why I got into it. I just felt a resonance. So that's where I started with sacred sexuality, but I'm going to share a little bit about the journey and how that brought me into healing my own sexuality, my own reproduction, story, and my own disconnection from my roots with my menstrual cycle, my ovulation cycle, and the cycles that I now live by as a woman. So when we talk about sacred sexuality, we're not really talking about sex, not at all. It's about the creative life force that lives in you as a woman. And this is something that we don't really explore enough, I find, in the Western world. What lives within my womb and my feminine being that will allow me to live my life through that, because there's a potent pot of magic there. And when I'm speaking about this, I'm speaking about the feminine principle that lives in all people, whether there are men or women. We all have the feminine principle within us, and we all have a masculine principle within us. So this allows us not to be, just like, I'm a woman and this is happening to me. Imagine if men were saying, I've got this feminine principle inside of me. I believe that we wouldn't be as disconnected in this world to any other human being. So you have this potent feminine life force within you. And I just want you to take a moment to feel that. I want you to just close your eyes. And if you've never connected to your womb before, just place your hands there. Put your left hand first on top of your womb, that's connected to your heart. And just take a sigh or a deep breath. And just pose that suggestion in there. What if in my womb lives a potent, creative life force? And the womb might already begin to stir up. You might think, oh, wow, like something stirring in there, or wow, I've never even thought of this. Oh yeah, I know about this life force, but I'm unable to access it. Like, what does that mean? How do I get this life force through my body? This life force, as you're just tuning into it now and feeling it, and I want you to just stay there a moment. I'm not going to do anything visually that you're going to miss, so just closing your eyes. And I want you to just summon that energy. I want you to feel the energy there. The potent, creative life force that is sexual energy. The Shakti. And as you're breathing it in and you're making it conscious, it will begin to show itself to you. It's being summoned now by your feminine principle. So the feminine aspect of you is now saying, creative, sexual life force, come forward, come through. And when I first experienced this, as you're experiencing it now, I could feel there was a power, but I was really quite unable to access it. And that made me ponder, what's blocking my life force here? What's blocking my sacred sexuality? And I could list a million things that was then. The pill, using tampons, a million things that I was doing that was blocking my creative life force in my sexual womanhood. And then I began to understand, as this journey went on, the nature of women's reproductive systems, that if something in their life was trying to get their attention, their womb would tell them. Their womb would say, I'm going to bleed heavy because you're not listening to me. I'm going to develop a polyovary cyst because you're not listening to me. I'm going to get endometritis. I'm going to cause you pain because you're not listening to me. And as I began to work in this field with women and the many people that came into my community space, I began to see the same certain traits happening. I began to see the same blockages, the same symptoms, the same illnesses happening in women's body. And that's what made me want to train in this. So as you're connecting to your womb, know that there's not one single woman in this world who doesn't have a block in her sacred sexuality. That there is not one woman in the world that has not suffered from menstrual pains, menstrual issues, reproductive issues. These are the gifts that are sent to us to get our attention, to change our lives. And that's what we must see them as. We mustn't see them as these hindrances that are dogging our lives, that are making life unbearable for us, because then we become a victim of them. We begin to say, this is controlling me and I have no control over it. So I want you to permeate that knowledge into your womb right now, into all your reproductive system. Whatever is happening in there, I have the ability to change. I am not a victim. I am not hopeless in this. And this has been something sent to me that will take me through a deep healing, not only for me as a woman, but for the women that came before me in my ancestral line and the women that will come after me. And then beyond that, for all women in the collective. So I know that women on this call have issues, like all women. What is your issue? What is lying in your womb? Is it the lack of sexual life force coming through your body? Is it a pain? Is it heavy pain? What is it? And I want you to just connect to it right now. And I don't want you to push it away. I don't want you to exile it. I don't want you to hate it. I don't want you to think this is something horrible happening to me and I can't control it. I want you to feel into it now, name it, comfort it, be with it and say, you have my attention. I am listening. And we will work through this. We